Breaking tonight, French defense officials announced massive airstrikes have destroyed 2 jihadi sites in Raqqa, Syria. Joining me now is retired Army Lieutenant Colonel Tony Shaffer with the London Center for Policy Research.
Hey, Judge.
Good evening. All right, massive assault by the French on the ISIS-controlled city of Raqqa in Syria. Will this last, or is it a one-off, an emotional reaction to what's happened in France?
Well, it's absolutely emotional, but I think properly focused and I think they'll continue to execute this level of mission, at least for the next 6 months. And I think rightly so, Judge. I mean, they have the right also to invoke Article 5 of the NATO Charter, which would really bring us in. And I think that would, if I were French, I would think about doing that by the fact that I think the U.S. is obligated to step up here. And let me say this really quickly.
Let me just explain what Article 5 is. Article 5 is when there's an armed attack against one or more NATO members in Europe or North America. It should be considered an attack against them all, and if they agree, then they can exercise the right of individual or collective self-defense.
That's correct.
So, go ahead.
Well, and I think that's the issue here. We should be looking at that. And it's really interesting today that President Obama did not have his principal staff out talking about this. They had Ben Rhodes, an obtuse functionary who has only minimal understanding of the situation, out talking about this. He pulled a Susan Rice on us regarding this very situation. Judge, he should be trying to work to figure out how to support the French going forward now, and I didn't see that today.
Well, you know, and I don't want to get into something about the president and what he hasn't done and what he has done, but, you know, it's pretty clear that this ISIS JV team is really retaliating, because in the last 2 weeks, you've got, you know, the retaliation against France for the coalition airstrikes. And then you've got the killing of the Hezbollah in Lebanon, 40 people, another 240, I think, injured, and the downing of the airliner with the Russian passengers over Egypt. Everyone who has attacked ISIS, this JV team, is getting, you know, killed.
The president and his national security team have consistently underestimated ISIS to the fact that we're now seeing these attacks. Judge, they're using something, and Sebastian Gorka kind of talked about this a little bit, asymmetric warfare. They're not going to come at our strengths. They're not going to face us on the battlefield because they know they'll lose. What they're going to do is come around, go into our rear areas, go into the soft targets like you saw in France, and frankly, that's the president and his team are fighting the last war. This is going to get people killed, and frankly, the Pentagon now, he has to let the Pentagon do its job. General Joe Dunford just took over. I know they're doing a bottom-up review of both the strategy and tactics, and it's time for the president to depart from using political wishes as policy and listen to the professionals who are going to tell him what to do.
Well, you know, hope springs eternal on that one, but I want you to take a look at a picture here.
Sure.
I think we've got a full screen of the president and Putin. All right, there is Putin and our president. What do you think they're talking about?
Well, I'm sure that President Obama is probably going to mention something about global warming, and he'll get shut down pretty quick when he does it.
Global warming.
Yeah, well, that's not the biggest threat, I'm sorry to say. I wish it wasn't in many ways. With that said, no, I think Putin's going to have his lunch here, Judge, to be blunt. I mean, people aren't going to like me saying this. Putin's going to lay out to the president, Mr. President, with all due respect, your policies are failing. I'm having to step in. I suggest you step in with me. And right now, as you mentioned, the Russians have lost an airliner. They're now engaged trying to stabilize Syria. And, Judge, that should be our focus. Ungoverned space is why ISIS is thriving. We have to retake that space. Vladimir Putin is going to try to stabilize Iraq for his own purposes, to preserve at least for now President Assad. We have to do the same with the Kurds going through Iraq to bring back the governance. If we don't do that, we will continue to see ISIS spread.
How does Putin convince Obama? And, you know, aside from that, I guess it's more important to recognize the fact that they want to taste our blood. All right. Are we in a position to defend ourselves?
No, and I think this is why this needs to be a wake-up call to the White House, as you've been talking about, the open borders. The other thing is that Ben Rhodes said today that we have this quote-unquote process in place to screen refugees. We don't. It's complete fiction. He's lying to the American people. So we've got to get serious about the fact that some of these folks who were engaged in the Paris attack were actually refugees as little as a month ago in Greece. We've got to take this seriously, Judge, and no, we're not ready. New York City, the spot where you're at, is the largest target on the planet. We've got to get serious about using all of our resources, penetrating the networks and doing what we can to vigorously and definitively use special operations to shape the operations, organize our Arab allies, as Seb said about getting the Sunni together to go in. But we got to do it. We got to do it fast, or else we will see attacks here in the United States.
No doubt about it. Lieutenant Colonel Tony Shaffer, thanks so much for being with us this evening.
Thank you, Judge.